Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for November 14th through 20th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 3 shows, I watched 6 movies, and I listened to 2 books. First this week for NetGalley November, I read Unscripted. This is a book about a girl that is going to an improv camp and the things that happened there. This was an absolutely great book for me because I love theater books, even though I wasn't an improv kid because I'm not that quick on my feet and I prefer something with a script. I could definitely relate to a lot of the things that were happening here. For example, when I look back on my youth and theater as a whole, yes, it does seem very balanced or even female dominated depending on what was going on, but when it came to improv, it seemed very high in guy participation. And if you don't have somebody there to really rein things in and teach people how to actually do this without being jerks, it can run rampant with just dick and fart jokes. I've also seen some amazing long-form improv in my time that has some great female participants, so all of the dudes in this book that thought that girls weren't funny can just suck it. The other complication in our book is Zelda, our main character, gets onto a team and is being coached by this guy named Ben, and he seems really mean to her while she's on stage and trying to perform and while they're rehearsing, but then he seems overly familiar with her when they're alone, and it's this weird, disgusting power dynamic thing where he's just trying to get in her pants, and it's really gross. So trigger warnings for assault, sexual and otherwise, brief mentions of blood, as well as some homophobia, sexism. It's all in there. However, I absolutely love this group of characters that came together, found family style, some of them actual family with really interesting history, and I just really enjoyed it. If you like theater books, if you like books where people perform things, this is a book to pick up. Speaking of books where people perform things, the next book I read, also for NetGalley November, was If This Gets Out. This is a book about 2 members of a boy band. One of them already knows he's gay, and he's been trying to come out of the closet since he was 16 to his fans. Everybody around him knows, but he hasn't been able to come out publicly because his management company has been like, it's not the right time, it's not the right time, it's not the right time, and he's sick of hearing that. In the midst of their first European tour, one of the other band members realizes that he might also be queer of some kind, mostly because he and the other queer band member end up making out one night. I love that we get both of their perspectives because one of them has had a crush on the other for a long time, the other has as well but didn't realize that's what it was because he'd shut down all of these feelings before, and that's relatable. As somebody who didn't realize that they were bi until they were about 30, that is super relatable because you think that you just admire that person, you couldn't be attracted to them, right? This book is about figuring yourself out but then also living in this oppressive system where you're just told you're not allowed to do what makes you you. If you're a fan of books with performing aspects or boy bands or world travel, this is a book to pick up. On to the shows I watched this week, the first one being Grey's Anatomy, the current season, season 18, episode 5. And some things happen in this one. This is one of the episodes where there's crossover with Station 19, which is a show that I've seen the first season of, but I plan to go back and watch it all from the beginning and catch up as much as I can, because I really liked it when I watched it before. I just didn't realize that I have a streaming service that has all of it now. If you're not caught up, I'm not going to ruin what happens in this episode for you, but it's incredibly heart-wrenching, like a lot of Grey's Anatomy, so you should expect that going into it. Then of course I also stayed current on RuPaul's Drag Race UK as well as Canada's Drag Race. When it comes to the UK, next week is the finale, so we got down from the final 4 to the final 3. It went basically the way I think that everyone thought it was going to go. In this episode, they were doing a Pearly Gates roast. I don't know why that was the theme of it, but basically they had to roast themselves, they had to roast the judges, and they had to roast some eliminated queens who were in the audience. When it came to Canada's Drag Race, they threw a ball. This ball was sinful, so each of the 3 categories had something to do with sin. The first one, I can't remember what it was. The second one was ugliest sin, and the third one, each of them had to do a look that they made themselves based on one of the 7 deadly sins. Oh, I remember now, the first one was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I always love when they get the ball challenge because we see so many looks and everything is just amazing, and I'm just sitting here going, it is very expensive to do drag, and I could probably never do it because I would have to buy so many things. We did, however, have to say goodbye to somebody who I feel like hasn't been given enough credit in the show, but That's just the way it goes sometimes. On to the movies we watched this week. First we watched Spy Hard, which is a movie I had never seen, but it's a spoof on Die Hard and action movies in general. So it's fun because it's meant to be funny and it's meant to be ridiculous. You're not supposed to take it too seriously. It also has a lot of the tropes where like the main guy gets with every girl that's around if he wants to. So I could have done without that, but I do understand it is also spoofing movies like that. This week I also watched Gunpowder Milkshake, which is a movie I found on Netflix about these librarians who are also assassins. I don't know what it's been recently where it's been like librarians but also they're this and it's badass, but I'm okay with this trend in both literature and movies. Essentially when this woman was younger, her mother just disappeared and she used to be an assassin, so she kind of grew into the same role. And she's given this job but decides that she can't do it the way that they want because there's a child involved and she wants to save the child, which means that her agency is basically going to try to kill her to get back the thing that she's getting when she's trying to get the child. It's a whole big thing. Lots of action, lots of fight sequences, lots of blood, lots of people being badass. This is very female-led and I very much enjoyed it. Then we also watched the comeback trail because we saw the cast of Tommy Lee Jones, Robert De Niro, and Morgan Freeman, which is just a trio that I haven't really seen them in a movie together. I think they did one back in the day, but to our knowledge, Tommy Lee Jones hasn't been in a movie for quite a while, so we decided to watch it. This one, if you've ever seen The Producers, this is kind of like the movie version of that, without the scam of trying to collect a bunch of money as producers that you're never going to have to pay back because it flops. In this one, they've decided to film a movie just so they can kill somebody off so they can get the insurance from killing off that actor, and that's how they're expecting to get rich. P.S. This also has Zach Braff in it, and it's nice to see him in something that isn't Scrubs or Garden State because I haven't seen him in anything other than that. This was silly and fun, and I liked seeing Tommy Lee Jones as a cowboy. This week, a movie that I have been highly anticipating dropped, and that was Tick, Tick, Boom. If you're not familiar with it, it is the show that Jonathan Larson wrote that is semi-autobiographical before he wrote Rent. I used to listen to this soundtrack when I was in high school. I was very into musical theater in high school and I had a friend who gave it to me and I really enjoyed it. I actually saw a production of this while I was living in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Fringe. I didn't particularly like the production that I saw. The people who did it, I think that they were having an off night because they were better dancers than actors, and that was a little bit unfortunate. And immediately afterwards I told the friend that I had dragged along with me to see it, listen to this song, and I put on Why from the cast recording that I had, and he's like, oh, that's what it's like when people have talent. So that's a long rambly way of saying I'm really excited that I got to see this production again with a lot of people that had talent. Firstly, the amount of cameos in this movie is just astonishing. A bunch that I honestly didn't know because I don't know the faces of these people, but some I picked out, some I missed altogether because I was looking at other people. Also, I found it amazing that I still remembered a bunch of these songs and a bunch of the lyrics years after having not listened to it since probably 2008 is the last time I listened to these songs. I also really enjoyed that there was one song I know that they cut, but it appears on the radio at one point, so like it's still in there, but it's just in the background, and I really liked that detail. Especially because I was like, I know this song that's on the radio. What is this song? And I was like, oh wait, this is a song from the show, but they're not showcasing it. That's cool. I also very much enjoyed that this had little references to Rent. Because this is an autobiographical thing, you can see where he might have gotten some ideas for certain little things in Rent in his day-to-day life, and I really loved seeing that. I also cried, not only because the performances were really, really great and some of the songs get me every single time, but because I know what Jonathan Larson's life looked like. I didn't know a lot of the earlier stuff, but I knew the later stuff, but I still cried when it was talked about, so there you go. Last night, while we were having a pampering night and having face masks on, we also watched The Breakfast Club, which is a movie I've seen before, and it's fun to go back to. It has some pacing problems for me, but I do really enjoy that there is that whole one big scene where they were just kind of given what their characters' motivations were, and they just kind of riffed on it for the scene. That's just interesting background. If you've never seen it before, it's about this group of students that don't really know each other who are in detention on a Saturday for various different reasons. A 9-hour detention seems weird. A detention on a Saturday also seems weird, but they get up to a lot of different shenanigans and there are a lot of character reveals. So in that regard, it's fun because you get to see these different characters and how they work through these different issues or talk about these different issues. So it's a classic for a reason, but it's just not my favorite classic. After that, because we all like Edgar Wright in this household, we also watched his latest movie, which is Last Night in Soho. This one is very different from every Edgar Wright movie that I've ever seen, which is the Cornetto trilogy as well as Baby Driver. This one has to do with this girl named Eloise who's from Cornwall, and she lives with her grandmother because her mother died when she was very young and I don't think she knows her dad. And she's been accepted into the London School of Fashion Arts or something like that. I don't know if that's the exact title of the institution. So she goes down to London. She's very excited to start studying. She already makes all her own clothes and she doesn't really fit in with the popular fashionista girls, so she ends up moving out of the dorms into this room. And the first night she moves in there, she has this dream about this girl in the 60s in this very vivid dress that she wears in this scenario. And she wakes up really inspired about it, but then as time goes on, she keeps getting sucked back into this plot line in the 60s. Firstly, I need to talk about the cinematography because it is absolutely stunning. There were a lot of very interesting tricks, especially having to do with mirrors that were used in this movie, so just watching it for that is astounding. There were also some excellent music choices, which I kind of expected after seeing Baby Driver because that soundtrack was amazing. This also kept us guessing. This turns into a little bit of a psychological thriller, and I foresaw one of the things coming, but the other thing I was totally wrong on, which was a lot of fun. If you're looking for something dark and weird, this is definitely one to check out. I would look up trigger warnings first though. First audiobook I listened to this week is My Heart is a Chainsaw. I have finally read a Stephen Graham Jones book. Excellent. This book is about a high school girl named Jade who is indigenous and very close to graduating, and then one night at the beginning of the book she ends up self-harming, and because of this she is sent away to a treatment facility, and when she comes back there's this new girl in town and she becomes obsessed with the idea of this new girl being a final girl. You see, Jade is obsessed with horror, specifically slasher movies. She's watched them all, she's studied them all. In fact, for her history class, for extra credit, she actually writes papers about the different things to do with slashers and the different history and tropes, and those are sprinkled through this book, which makes it fantastic. Something I would actually love to do is get myself a physical copy of this book, go through it again, highlight every single horror and slasher film that is referenced, and I would like to see the ones that I haven't seen already because there are tons that I have not seen even though I loved horror growing up. What makes this book interesting and unique is the main character knows she's in a slasher situation, so she's trying to figure out exactly how it's going to go down. She already knows who the final girl is going to be because she has certain qualities, even though she doesn't look like a typical final girl, which she gets into. She also goes into the background of trying to figure out why it's happening now and why it's happening to her town, and trying to figure out exactly what the motives are and therefore who the slasher could be. If you like horror and you haven't read this yet, put this at the top of your list. This was phenomenal. Finally, the other audiobook I listened to this week was 5 Total Strangers. This is about a high schooler who has gone home to see her mom for Christmas because her mom's twin actually died a year ago, so it's very important to her that she spends Christmas with her mother because otherwise her mother's just gonna be very sad. She's been living with her dad so she can go to this very niche art-based high school, but she goes home for the holidays. However, when she gets to the city where she has a layover, there's a weather warning and none of the flights are leaving, so she's basically stuck there until the person that she sat next to on the plane is like, hey, I'm renting a car and going in the same direction. Do you want to get in with me and my friends? And she's like, yes, I need to get back to my mom, so why not? So she gets in the car with this person that she just met and these 3 other people, and they start going, and it's just problem after problem after problem. While this is going on, every once in a while we get these letters that are addressed to Mira, our main character, but they're talking about how this person met her and they had this great connection, and now this person is mad because they met again and she didn't acknowledge that they had met and had this connection. So it's all these very stalkery letters, and you spend a lot of time wondering if she's actually even read these letters before because they just escalate, but it's not something we actually see from her point of view. As time goes on, you get more and more of an inkling that one of the people that she's traveling with has to be the writer of these letters, but you can't tell who it is. Everyone seems a little bit dangerous in their own ways. Plus they get into all of these different situations along the way. There's lots of snow, they're trying to travel, it's slow going. There's tons of different things that start happening, such as some of their things start to go missing. Tensions and accusations run high, and this is very good at keeping you on the edge of your seat and just trying to figure out what is happening. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!